an unsurpassed, penetrating and perfect Dharma is rarely met with, even in 100,000 million kalpas. Having it to see and listen to remember and accept, I vow to taste the truth of the Tathagata's words. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
So we come into the year 2020 with hopes of good health and happiness and prosperity and safety for everyone, and so indeed we wish that. So on New Year's Day, Tokunaga Sensei is my Shodo teacher, brush painting teacher. So Tokunaga Sensei telephoned, and we were talking about the upcoming year and what was happening. And I told her that I was going to be 80 this year. So she said, "Oh my goodness, that is wonderful. 80 means the year of the umbrella." So I said, "Well, great. Had no idea what she was talking about at the moment. It took me some time to figure it all out. But in any event, 80 in Japanese in Japan, I think in China also, it's called the Year of the Umbrella. First off, the umbrella has very deep meaning in Buddhist practice, in Buddhism. The umbrella represents enlightenment. It represents awakening. And it has the same kind of symbol that we see in the halo of Christian iconography, saintly iconography. And so it's a big symbol. It also represents protection and the Dharma. I mean, there are many meanings related to umbrella. And so I kept thinking about umbrella and what is this umbrella as we were experiencing so much rain this week. But we imagine umbrella essentially has 4 spokes, actually. Imagine the spoke going from one side and arcing over to the other as one spoke, and then the next spoke at right angles going across, and then, of course, crossing again to form the 8 sides, the 8 spokes, the 8 points of the umbrella. But they're actually in the umbrella, or in the meaning of the umbrella, or in the idea of being 80 and successfully getting to 80 and what this all means. There are really 4 points called successful aging, but I think that these are important for all life, and I think that they are important points for a New Year thought even. But it does have to do with how we age successfully in getting to be 80 and what the umbrella represents. And, at first hand, they seem, simple kinds of things. First one is physical activity, the ability to remain physically active and healthy by way of good physical activity. The second is financial stability, the ability to be independent, to maybe do what one wants finally at age 80, and this is good at any age, of course, but the ability to be stable, financially stable. The third is community involvement and being in some kind of community in which there is interaction which motivates us, sparks us, causes us to continue to be interested in life. And then the fourth one is acceptance of reality as it is. And that, of course, is, certainly referring to maybe not fighting with life so much, really accepting what one's life has done and how one's life has gone. But I'm interested in how these are spiritual, how we look at these spiritually, and the importance of these, not just at being 80, but at any aspect of our lives, whatever age we might be. I also like to think that my first teacher, Kobun Roshi, always said that we are all the same age, that because we are all living in the same age, we are the same age, and we will live through a similar kind of issue in the age that we are in. So we're all the same age, no matter what year we count ourselves to be. So essentially no discrimination or pointing out or suggesting that because you are a certain age, certain things are supposed to happen. Certainly at age 80, the assumption is you're crumbling and you're going downhill and who knows how long you have to live, all of those kinds of things. Or that if you happen to be 21, you just don't know what life is all about, and the assumptions that we make about the particular years of life. So this question then, to look spiritually at one's physical activity, I think in our practice, we're very clear about how we practice and how we sit. And simply the practice of Zazen is actually deeply conditioning in the body, while it is also restoring the soul and restoring the mind and connecting the body and mind and bringing those into a smooth operation in which we aren't fretting about the condition of the mind as it relates to the body. And the body, to be able to sit Zazen, whether we are sitting in a chair or we are sitting on the cushion, requires the body to hold itself together, hold itself up. And as we practice with the body, the mind follows along. The mind comes along with the body in Zazen. Now that may be difficult for us to realize, but when we sit Zazen, physically sit Zazen, in the activity of the body, the physical activity of the body, if we pay very close attention to the posture we are holding, and we move very carefully and very subtly in particular ways, we can arrive at a deep and energetic and satisfying alertness, such that we are able to be present through the whole period of Zazen in a very satisfying way. So when we think then about physical activity, we think about, if we are thinking in a spiritual way, we are directing it toward what the body is doing in relationship to awakening. And that follows through then in all of our activities, our awakeness to the body, our awareness of the body in these activities. And as we understand Dogen Zenji's teaching about space and the relationship of the body, we understand that the body is always functioning in space, and that the body is always perfectly at home in itself, and is always in the right place, and is always engaged in the activity of awakening, in everything that we do. So this is the one way of looking at the spiritual aspect of spiritual activity. Of course, we can go to the gym and we can work out. We can do all of those things which keep us having some stamina. But the true stamina comes in our understanding of the spiritual connection of the body-mind in Zazen. That is our true stamina. And if we do go to the gym and we are working out, it is best that we understand it in that way, that we understand the mind-body connection as we are working out. If we are sitting Zazen regularly, then everything becomes Zazen. And so the body is always in the right spiritual activity. It is always in right tone, emotionally and spiritually. So then this question of financial stability is always a very interesting one. I certainly am well aware that there are many poor people in the world, which doesn't necessarily mean unhappiness, by the way. It doesn't mean that cultures that are particularly poor are unhappy cultures. Some of the poorest cultures are the happiest. But an understanding of the balance around financial stability and what is meant in the Dharma around that. If you recall, we have worked now for 20 years without a membership fee, and we have always met the requirements to hold our place together, to maintain our place of practice, which does require, of course, some income. But the deep understanding of financial stability comes from our understanding and our sincere and absolute claim that there is no lack. There is no lack of any kind anywhere. I mean, we haven't run out of the number 3 or 5 or 10 or 2 or 1. It's an abstract idea. Numbers are an abstract idea, and we don't run out of numbers. And understanding that there is no lack in financial care in the Dharma is really essential to a healthy Sangha. It's essential to a healthy temple, and essential to our really the stability in our own lives. I'm sure so many of you have had the experience of thinking, oh my goodness, my car needs repair and I've got no money. What am I going to do? And somehow something arrives. Somehow the universe provides. Somehow, if we are truly practicing in the Dharma and we understand there is no lack, somehow it comes from somewhere. It always comes from somewhere. Maybe it really comes from nowhere. It comes from out of nothingness, out of emptiness. But it comes, and Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva rescues us in the most dire straits. I've had numerous experiences in my own life around this. My car was needing repair. I had 3 children, no money to repair my car, and an employee, a friend I worked with, handed me $500 to repair my car. She said, don't worry, I know you'll give it back. In the future, you'll give it back to somebody. Just free gift, just like that. And we have all had those experiences. And we know that there is no lack. The Dharma is profoundly giving. So if we see money and we see financial stability in relationship to the Dharma, we can stand on the trust of we will be taken care of. Needs are met. And the next is community. Well, of course, The Buddha has established Sangha as our best community, our community of practitioners who come together and speak to us honestly, who support us, with whom we rub up against and we are polished by rubbing up against other Sangha who maybe annoy us, who maybe we don't like some people, or all kinds of things happen when we have a community of people, especially who come together, who would otherwise probably not even look at one another on the street or in a cafe, except that we sit zazen together, and because of that we know one another intimately. So the true meeting of community is in the space of zazen, where our true meeting place is. Our true community is the meeting in zazen. It is the true place of the exchange of Dharma, of being wholly in the soup of Dharma. And I know if you are older, you go to the doctor, for instance, and the doctor, you have to fill out these forms, and are you feeling depressed? How often is that? How is your appetite? How do you sleep? Are you living in community? Are you meeting with people? Are you talking with people? We get those as we get older once a year. If you go to the doctor for a checkup, you have to answer all these questions. And one of them is the importance of community. And so on the level of mental health, on the level of care of one another, of course, on the that level of looking at our societal requirements, it is well to think that we remain in community as we get older and as we are respected and cared for in the aging process. But it's true of any age that community is essential. It is important to polish the character. It's important that we rub up against one another in the funny ways that we interact, and that as a result, our character is polished by that. So that is the third. And then the fourth one, accepting reality as it is. And of course, this is maybe the most difficult one to truly enter spiritually, to truly understand reality, the big R of reality, reality small r and reality big R, and to see into ourselves as Buddha nature, to see ourselves as the formation of a Buddha for the future. It's easier to see someone else's Buddha nature, or to see someone who is so much like the Buddha, that the qualities of a person, we can see that. And we are all so hard on ourselves. But pretty much as we move along and as we mature in life, I shouldn't say that we can't always change. Dogen Zenji is very clear that it doesn't matter how old you are. You should be able to look into your life and change what is necessary, and to understand that no matter what age we are, we can be awakened. So it isn't as though we get to some old age and it's over and we no longer have the capacity to awaken. That is not true at all. So to see the big R reality and the reality of our own lives is a truly essential aspect of our living and our moving through life. I really see all of these successful aging, of course. It doesn't matter how old you are. These are four essential spiritual views to live by. This big R, perhaps like Ryokan-san, who blossomed as he continued to live. He blossomed slowly and lived in such a very fine way, truly exhibited that big R reality, the true blossoming of Buddha nature in all his activities. And so that is our deep aim, to feel that the expression of our lives have truly been well lived, that we have lived well, that we don't resort to regret in that reality as it is. I mean, on the small R reality, of course, we all have regrets. We know our foibles. At some point, if you get to be 80, you know your foibles. You should. If you haven't, well, you still have a lot of homework to do. But recognizing those foibles is just an aspect of the creative self that we are. There's nothing bad about having those foibles. It's how we are creatively a piece of something, and that we ultimately love one another for our faults, not because we are perfect. So we recognize the small R foibles, and at the same time, we ought lift ourselves into the big R reality of understanding that the totality of our life has been worthwhile, no matter what we have done. The truth is, we cannot see what we have succeeded at. We cannot look at our own wake, that is the water. Of course, the wake of our death, too, but you cannot look at the wake of the trail of water you left behind you as you moved forward. You cannot see it in its totality. We can't know the people we touched. We mostly know the people we hurt, but we can't know also whether they are transformed by that also. And we can't know whether some of our actions were actually beneficial to people. We can't know that. That by our misdeed of some kind at some time, someone else had the opportunity to grow. By our accepting what someone else might have done to us cruelly, we have the opportunity to grow beyond that. So this big R, small r, is a huge piece of living and aging successfully. And I think maybe it's the most important one, because by our conduct, by our moods, by our sense of being in the world, by our interactions, by how we feel about our own self, how we feel about others, all of these have to do with our health. All of these have to do with some placing, letting some shadow fall upon those first three. Our physical welfare, our physical health. Our attitude can help determine our health. So maintaining a spiritual outlook in these areas of life are a good way to begin 2020. How about that? A good way to have an outlook in such difficult times as we are tossed about in the maelstrom of the madness of our country. It behooves us to dig in and deepen all of our outlook, deepen ourselves, because as we all know, it can always get worse. And so we want to be able to live well through the maelstrom, to be able to live well in spite of the uproars, the false, very false uproars that are occurring. And I think they're not over. So so I wish all of us well in 2020, and we must make it a good year and a good community in which we live, and a rich culture, enriching ourselves with good decisions. We began this Dharma year, as you recall, talking about leisure, talking about how we spend our time, if you recall. So let us remember that also as we begin 2020, and with these good and healthy views about how to live well. And no matter how old you are aging, by the way. No matter. Okay, anybody have anything to say or? Okay, thank you. Beings are numberless, I vow to save them. Delusions are inexhaustible, I vow to end them. Dharma gates are boundless, I vow to enter them. Buddha's way is unsurpassed, I vow to become it. Thank you, everyone. My name is Eido. Your name is?
My name is Calvin.
Larry.
Brooke.
Nikki.
Bob.
Allison.
Donna.
Will.
Amir.
Gary.
Okay.